Two. And we are live. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Wolf. Happy Friday afternoon. Bitcoin's running. Everybody's happy. Bitcoin conference is next week. Vibes are high across the timeline. And we're coming together, talking gaming a little bit. It's been a little while since we had on gaming conversation. We have Meta Zet here in the house, who was our gaming host for a super long time. Those were a ton of fun spaces. And we also had Timothy Juice over from Coin Games, who's building some pretty interesting stuff in the card game arena, but also trying to mix in a digital component as well. And so I figured we bring the squad together, talk about the gaming industry just as a whole. I just get a bit of a pulse check, see what's coming, see what has worked, hasn't worked, and sort of parse open the conversation. I'm not the expert here. I'm just kind of interested in the topic. That's also awesome, and Tim is deep in the world. So Tim, it's great to have you, sir. How are you?
Thanks for having me, Cade. Yeah, I'm doing amazing, man. It's a good time to be alive. It's always an interesting time to be building in crypto, regardless of the space you're in, on the frontier of freedom and decentralization. And so it's never a dull moment building in this space. And, you got to just appreciate the other folks that are in it with you, because you interact in normal life with so many people that don't understand this world at all. So it's always nice to have people to share and just chat with. And so, yeah, excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Zet, how's it going, man? Good to have you, sir.
Doing great. Doing fantastic. Excited to talk Web3 gaming, crypto gaming, whatever you want to call it. And for those who don't know, wouldn't be proper if I don't start out with a proper intro and a rowdy howdy and a not so mellow hello. My name is Zet, aka Meta Zet, because if you met me, you met a Zet, and that means you're at Wolf Crypto, baby. Excited, like I said, that's an understatement. We got a legend here, and we are going to delve into what is going on in the world of Web3 gaming. So,
Definitely.
Timothy, thanks for joining us today.
Hey, man, thanks for having me. I feel like now I need to work on my intro. I love that. That's awesome.
Dude, thanks. I'm contractually obliged. If I don't do it, I don't get paid. Right, Kate?
Yeah, great.
Exactly. Yeah. No, that's awesome stuff. Yeah. So, okay. So, we had 2021 era. It was crazy. We had some big time games jump up. Play to earn was a big deal. There were streamers that were going on everywhere. And then since then, a lot of projects launched, and then not a ton of success across the board. And then in the last year or so, we had a bit of a run. Gaming tokens were popping off for a little bit. Avalanche really started to pick up some steam. And then for me, I just haven't heard as much that's going on in the gaming world. So maybe, Izet, I'll pass to you kind of some of the things you've been seeing and hearing in the last 6 months or so, and get a bit of a pulse check on the gaming industry as a whole for you. I know there's a couple big games that launched. But where are you at with everything? Like, how's your vibe check? And then I would love to hear from Tim as well. And then we'll kind of jump into some of the other topics here.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it goes a little something like mostly bearish, right, across the board. Bearish. No, that's kind of been the sentiment in Web3 gaming a little bit lately. And on that note, we've seen a ton of projects and companies fall off the map in real recent times. In the last weeks, we saw some major ones, including Nyan Heroes or Nyan.
Nyan. Yeah.
And several, and we could definitely go over those. Now, I'm saying it's bearish, but as always, there's always good and bad. It's always kind of bulls and bears at play here. And so I think while there's a lot of negative sentiment and there's a lot of negativity surrounding crypto gaming, I think ultimately it's really positive, and we are seeing some really positive happenings, such as MapleStory was a recent TGE that was successful. Finally, a really good, successful TGE with really great tokenomics, and we saw how that played out. So that was very good to see, and I imagine we'll see a lot of projects follow suit with how MapleStory did their TGE and everything. They didn't have investors up front, that are going to drop the go nuke the charts, to try and get their returns back and everything. So I really like how they did it and their approach to it. And so I think that we'll see a lot more games follow suit. But behind that, we've had a lot of failures leading up to that. And so it was kind of brutal failure after brutal failure after brutal failure. And it was looking, just when it was darkest, we got some light, and that was Maple's story. But there's some really big players in the space that are doing good things, that are making way and really kind of setting the tone, and also kind of showing the way. Right. And so I think Maple Story is one of them. And I think that Off the Grid is another one that is doing some really great things for the space.
Love it. Tim, I would love to hear some thoughts from you, if you got any on anything Zed just said, or of your own just analysis.
Yeah. No, I agree wholeheartedly. Gaming as a category, blew up really with Axie leading the way, and then many other projects after that. And it was really around the idea that, like, if you compare it to most token categories, gaming is maybe one of the best, if not the best, at having the potential to get users from the normal world, normies, into a token economy and having an impact in one way or another, right? If you think about it, most big technological revolutions happen disguised around something that's fun. And so what's more fun than a game in many cases? And so, if you look at every category out there that has the chance to onboard 1 million, 2 million, 5 million, 10 million regular people into a crypto economy, it's really games are probably still one of the best ones to do that. And I don't think that has ever changed, but there was that idea that was the front runner. And then, like we do in crypto, we all piled in on projects that shouldn't have deserved the money. And there was a crazy, year and a half, 2 years of capitalization. And because good games take a while, there was all this time of people funding games. It even led to the beginning of this cycle where games kind of popped off at the beginning. And I saw on many charts, it was like AI, memes, and GameFi were like the top 3 narratives. And then, like Zed said, it's like it was disappointment after disappointment after disappointment, where projects that were funded failed to deliver on getting a single user from Web 2. And I have my own opinions on why I'm actually very bullish on the category, and actually bullish on the category coming back as a top tier category. But ultimately, we had, the high of the possibility of what GameFi should have been and could have been. If a category in crypto can truly go on board 10, 20, 30 million Web 2 people into that economy and have them impact the token, and then you can invest from our side of the fence on the Web3 side into that same token, that's magical. And there's very few token categories that are going to do that. Most of them are just stuck in the realm of Web3. And so anyway, I think that fully agree. It went up, very exciting, came down even faster and harder. And then it's really hit a bottom period. Maple Story is like one of the shining lights Off the Grid. And I also do agree, there's a lot of great projects that are building that are hopefully learning from the roller coaster back down and are now, building differently. At Coin, our studio, we've always had an approach from day one that the way to win in Web3 is to go win in Web 2. And I think that's becoming the new narrative for those that are left. It's you have to go win in Web 2. I'm good friends with a couple founders that are either pre-launch or getting ready to launch their game, and they're all shifting the focus to how do we actually go get Web 2 adoption. Fortunately, we've been building personally for Web 2 adoption from day one, because we never felt like Web 3 was the way to win. And so we're really building a Web 2 game and attaching Web 3 in an intelligent way to actually supercharge the Web 2 game and actually give an advantage against the Web 2 opponents. And I actually personally think that's the right way to do it. But it's an interesting time right now. Maple Story being one of the shining lights, Off the Grid definitely as well. And I think there's more coming. And so I remain very bullish on the thesis of gaming being one of the best ways to bring normal people into Web3, and blockchain tech and incentive, like blockchain incentive systems like tokens and NFTs being one of the best ways to supercharge a Web 2 project. I actually just spent some time on the phone with a friend today who's actually got a physical internet infrastructure. He built a company that raised over 300 million in Web 2 with decentralized internet. They had a contract with New York and a bunch of other places. And he's now looking to use a token structure to enhance that model and basically pay people in tokens to kind of facilitate a wireless internet network. And it's very smart. And again, it's that same principle that I think the best game studios are building with, which is make Web3 your edge to win in Web 2. But the focus is millions of Web 2 players not fishing in the same small fishing hole in Web 3. And I think that's where most games have failed. They've been fishing and they've been sharing the same pool of Web 3 fish that has run out of capital, and it was never that big to begin with. And so, yeah, it was good, then it was bad, and now I think it's going to slowly get good again.
Yeah, and I wonder what Zed, be curious to your thoughts on what kind of catalyst we'd be looking at to get more people in here, because that's a similar conversation to a lot of the altcoins. Like people are like, especially the traders, they're like, when are we going to get this alt pump? Like, is it going to be this rotation for Bitcoin? And I'm like, well, I'm not so sure, because all the people who are buying Bitcoin are these big institutional players. A lot of them park their money in the ETFs. I don't see any reason they'd rotate into like Solana or something like that. I think we need an influx of people to come through if they're going to pump up these altcoins. And so with the gaming tokens, the various games that are available, like you mentioned, if it's the same pool of people of however many hundreds or thousands of people there are in the crypto gaming world, especially on X, I do wonder what kind of those catalysts we'd be looking at to get those people in there. And I also don't know like how much of those people who are active in gaming are also active on X specifically, and people like Jonah who are tweeting about it all the time, versus people maybe in like Asia, and I did a lot of stuff with Near Protocol. They've got a lot of activity going on in Asia, but they're not like huge on Twitter, they're not huge on X, and not making a bunch of noise over here. They've got a bunch of activity, but it's like almost two different stories,
Totally. We see that happen all the time where something might fly under the radar, and then all of a sudden, like if they have an NFT launch, it's up multiple ETH, and you're like, where did this come from? I've never heard of it. And it's a really popular IP, overseas. And so it's something we might not have on our radar, might not be prevalent on X and our little bubbles, our little circles. And then all of a sudden, it's something that has a lot of daily active users, something that has a lot of support and following and love as an IP brand. And so that's the real alpha, is to kind of find those gems, because it's definitely not always in the crypto Twitter circles. The people in crypto Twitter, they're loud, but they don't always have the real alpha, if you will. But I agree wholeheartedly with everything Timothy just said. I think that's such a good point about the audience that we have right now, and kind of the failures of the play to earn that we've seen so far, is because where the audience is Web3 degens that are trying to get an airdrop and then go dump that airdrop and move on to the next airdrop. Yeah. And we've seen it a lot of times. One that comes to mind is Nifty Island. Such a great product, such a great game, and had a lot of momentum, a lot of users, and really launched great out the gate. I think it was like 15. I don't want to quote any numbers, but it did the typical launch and then all the way down, and then kind of sustain a low value. It's been climbing back up, but they have a really strong user base, a really strong following, people who love Nifty Island. And it's a great product. It's a really great game, if you ask me, and I think that they have a lot going for them. And so I'd really be curious to get Timothy's take on play to earn and what you think is the correct way to do it. Is it the wrong thing to do completely, which I don't think so, but I just think we haven't seen it done right. And I think a big part of that is because of the audience that is doing the playing to earning right now.
Yeah.
To answer your question, Kate, what I think catalysts that will bring people in, a couple notes on that. First, gaming makes the most sense. It is the perfect use case for crypto. It makes the absolute best sense, and it is the easiest to understand and the easiest to adopt. Millions of people play games of all sorts all day. And in my feeling, the minute that some of these people start to hear, oh, my buddy just made $3,000 for playing a game he loves, he wasn't even expecting, he just got it out of nowhere. When that starts to become more prevalent and people start hearing that sort of thing, like normies start making money just for participating in ecosystems and games and so forth, I think that's when you'll start to see more rapid adoption. But even beyond that, what I really think that will bring in the adoption, and now hear me out, this is kind of a bigger, grander vision of what I think is going to happen and how it's going to play out. AI is going to revolutionize so many industries, so many things, right? Of course, people are going to be losing jobs like crazy, transferring their skills, learning new skills, having to adopt to new industries, switch to different industries, so forth. And the creator economy is already such a big economy. I believe the creator economy is going to be incredibly massive, grow exponentially. I've seen some stats on like what they predict it to go to, and I'm not good at like retaining stats or numbers, so I don't want to just throw numbers out there, but it's going to grow massively. And we saw this with COVID when people were out of work, staying at home, that sort of thing. They needed stuff to fill their time. They played a lot more games. They made a lot more content, that sort of thing. That's going to happen when people are displaced from work, when people are at home looking for work. And a lot of people are going to find hustles, side work, that sort of thing in content or, hustles online. And that very well likely will be crypto to some extent. And again, gaming makes the most sense. It is the clearest case use, in my opinion, of crypto, and it's the easiest to adopt to. Like anyone can play a game, especially like simple. I mean, we're talking tab games, even some of them, right? So, especially if there's any kind of stimulus, we're talking a Wall-E future where we live on a government subsidy and everyone has income and they're floating around in their fat chairs and just playing games all day and everything. I mean, just imagine what that world looks like when a huge amount of people are now creating content or consuming content because what work looks like for the average individual has changed a lot. So that's just kind of maybe a far-fetched future, not so far-fetched future kind of outlook.
I think in the immediate term, and then I'd love to go back to like the question of the opinions of how to do it right in GameFi, play to earn, no play to earn, all those things. I do have opinions on all those, but I think the catalyst that I see launching the next GameFi run is actually much closer than we think, and it's more so back to what you said, Cade, with Bitcoin and then the inflow into other tokens. What we're seeing now that I think a lot of us didn't expect, but maybe like just all makes sense, is that when institutional investors finally got here, right? I got into crypto in 2017, made a bunch of money quickly, and then overtraded into random nonsense, and then basically wrote it all the way back down again. All on the belief that I remember telling my wife, we're early, but institutional money's coming around the corner, in a week or 2 weeks or a month or whatever. And then they never showed up, right? So now they're finally here. And, I think we all hope that Bitcoin just flies to a couple 100,000 and then the money does what it has always done. It rotates and rotates and rotates. And obviously along the way, you lose people with less risk tolerance and the money makes it out. But all your favorite altcoins with the narratives, they all just run and then we all rotate back. And you just kind of hope you time the casino right. And that's how you make money. I mean, that's really the game we've been playing the last 3 cycles. I think what's different now is that money is able to go into ETFs and it doesn't go anywhere else. It just goes in and comes out and goes in and comes out. And so that's the first thing. So the new growth into the majors doesn't affect the minors and beyond. But there is a run up. And so I do think there is money in the altcoin market, let's call it. But the problem that we have is that in every previous cycle, you never had to deliver a product or get any adoption to move your token. You just kind of needed to be in a narrative and wait your turn. And then your favorite horse ran and got to run its track, and you hoped you just picked the hottest, fastest ones, right? And I think that is now what's coming to an end in the altcoin cycle, because we just have so many. And so what's happened at the beginning of this cycle is that, and it happened in GameFi, is that investing through syndicates and other things became far easier. And a lot of us, myself included, put money into all our favorite altcoins that we thought were going to run this cycle, only to realize we were retail and there was no one new to come into the market. That's just the truth, right? I invested in like 80 projects personally through syndicates, of which I don't even know how many will launch. And then even worse, like how many of those will do anything. And it's because there's no one left to put the money into it. And well, there's not much. So now, how do you win as an altcoin? I believe it's actually a very healthy evolution of our industry, but it's like provable adoption. We're kind of finally at the place where what it takes to win in crypto is going to at least resemble what it takes to win in the real world, which is like you actually have to build something with real value and adoption. But my belief is that the new narrative, now there'll always be narratives. AI right now is getting a free pass, right? Eventually all things will come to an end, because the truth is that crypto is filled, and I'm one of them, with lazy investors. We don't really like to do our due diligence. We want to just kind of follow the hot thing and get the big win. And so we'll always have narratives, because that a narrative allows you to kind of just bet on the narrative. And if you get early enough, you win. And that's really the easiest way to win without due diligence. I think the new narrative is going to be provable adoption. So look at Hyperliquid. They have real users, and then they have a token economy model that allows them to take some form of their user base and their revenue and move the token. And so in a world with 1 million token options and no one wants to do due diligence, how do you really make your bets? Well, you either do it off of the one narrative that's still working, aka AI right now, or you can just look for who has actual adoption. And if it becomes agreeable that the market will reward adoption, I think that will cause things to run. And so, the categories that benefit are two categories. Apps with real adoption at the end user. So Hyperliquid's a good example. I think games are very much favored in that category, because we can, again, like Zet said, we have one of the easiest times getting adoption from normal people, because it's a game. It's fun. So if the game is good, it's fun. Now, making a good game is a really hard thing to do, but if you do that, like our game is killing it right now with the target demographic privately, we're very confident in our ability to go be a profitable Web2 business. And so we believe that when that happens, then adoption can happen in Web3, because we have adoption in Web2. And that's what MapleStory has. MapleStory is an established Web2 brand that then just came over to Web3, and boom, they blow up to 3.5 billion FDV. I think it's now at 2 billion or something, but it's holding nicely because they have adoption. And so I believe that points at the signal of where it goes. So I actually think, again, GameFi kind of becomes a top tier category again in that new world where adoption is rewarded. The other people that can kind of get rewarded are crypto products that service other crypto products, aka chains, because chains can have pseudo adoption. What is a pseudo adoption for a chain? Well, they convince the apps that may never get adoption to at least come work on them. So if, as long as they have a good rotation of that, oh, look, we just signed 5 more meme coins. We just launched, 1,000 meme coins. We just signed 5 more games. We just did that. Chains can keep showing adoption without real adoption, because they have a rotating new supply of people who are going to likely fail to get real adoption, but at least temporarily it looks like they're getting adoption. So anyway, so that's the catalyst that I think happens, is that we get into a world where adoption is rewarded, and across all fronts, if you're really building a real business and you're going to really go get real adoption, I think you'll shine in this next world. And I think those coins could do amazing, because again, I still think there's actually decent money in altcoins. It's just spread so thin across so many options, all of us waiting on our favorite token to do something,
100%. Yeah, I agree with that. Definitely seen a lot of what's the word? Like a lot of options. We're spread out quite a bit just as a space, as an industry. There's so many blockchains now, so many layer ones, so many layer twos, and so forth. And quick question on that note, I want to get your read on where you think crypto gaming lives and where it will live in the future. Like, obviously, AVAX is a big contender.
Yep.
I think we're seeing a huge move to abstract, if you've been following that at all, as far as like, at least in the Web3 degen world of like, a lot of people are adopting that blockchain because of kind of a play to earn type setup with the XP earning with, abstract, that we'll be releasing at some point and everything. So there's a lot of mechanics there, but there is some pretty good games. That's where I've personally seen some more of the success in recent days with gaming on abstract, with like Plushies or on-chain heroes, some things like that. Just to mention a few. But I just wanted to get your take on that.
I think the landscape's going to change a lot over the next few years, and I think the real key is when we get meaningful Web 2 adoption, which, if you think about it, we have yet to really have that, right? Show me a Marvel Rivals on Web 3. I think that's when the real conversation begins. I think up until then, it's still kind of anyone's game. The chains that I think are showing that there's still momentum would be, I would say, definitely AVAX, of course. They've signed some big guys, and they've definitely building something great there. I think Ronin has still a strong following. They have a very strong kind of, I don't use this as a negative term, but a cult following from that play to earn crowd, which is kind of that Web3 thing. We're now seeing the same type of thing, but with a different group over on Abstract, where they're catering well to the existing fan base of play to earn folks. And so I still consider that, though, fishing in the same pool. It's almost like who's doing the best of getting mind share in the current moment amongst the people who are fully red pilled. And so while I do think that is its own model, and Kate asked that before, play to earn, no play to earn. I think play to earn ultimately in its current form is still just a game of how do you pull the group of people that are playing this other game and extracting from this other game to your game. There is a place for that. There's a business model around catering to the current fans of Web3. But I do think there's a much larger game that is still yet to even be played. Like, we kind of measure who's winning right now because the only scoreboard is the Web3 scoreboard. And so it's like, well, who's winning there? When you go wider, we've talked to a lot of chains, and there's quite a few other chains, IMX being one, who you don't hear as much about. Obviously, they've got a couple really good games on the Raven Quest, Fableborn, and a few others. But ultimately, they them along with AVAX, and I would say even up and coming, we know the team from Monad. There's some interesting chains that are really pushing. They're seeing where the puck is going with Web 2 adoption and really trying to optimize for that, which again, I would argue has not yet happened, right? Off the grid has probably been the closest thing, but even then it's still not it's not a top tier shooter yet. It has the potential to be there, and I'm rooting for them in a big way, but they've got steep competition. The shooter genre is probably one of the toughest ones ever. MapleStory to me is currently the most interesting product because it's got a long heritage in Web 2 and it still has a very high chance to continue to grow there. And now they're bringing that product into Web 3. And so I think, to answer your question, where does gaming live? I think it's still anyone's game. To me, it's probably going to ultimately, the most dominant chain will be the one that can actually get the biggest games with Web 2 adoption on their chain. And so I think we're going to end up with two types of products. We're going to have very Web 3 products that will always have appeal, and whoever can do that degen game really well. I was actually just watching our good friends over at YGG, talking about their, LOL game. It's kind of like Monopoly Go, but they're not trying to compete in Web 2. They're just saying we are the We're the Web3 degen version of Monopoly Go. And that's a great product. There's enough of an audience if you're okay with X amount of players and you can keep the kind of extraction game going, you're happy with that. But I really think we've still yet to see, and this is what we're aiming at, and a wild card is there's a number of other games that are aiming at true Web 2 adoption. And we're looking at Web 3 in a totally different angle. We're not seeing it as the game. We're seeing Web 3 as an enablement layer to enable an enhanced Web 2 experience. And so our consumer, it's not that we're not worried about the Web 3 consumer. They'll have plenty to meat on the bone to enjoy degen behaviors, but there's really the audience is Web 2. And how do we make Web 3 invisible? How do we bring in millions of Web 2 players and make it entirely invisible so that they can come in, enjoy a game without being turned off with wallets, play to earn, token spend, any of those things, but then utilize blockchain to enrich that experience. And then if you have the right hooks, that massive army of Web 2 people become a giant token sinking machine for the Web 3 token economy. And that's when you actually get real sparks, in my opinion. And so I know we're building that way, and there's a few others that I know are kind of taking that same approach. So yeah, I think there's going to be two products in Web 3. There's going to be Web 2 games using Web 3 to enhance their model and actually help them beat the opponents in Web 2. And then you'll still get that purely Web 3 degen game like we're seeing do well on Abstract and other chains.
Yeah, beautiful. So I got one for you, Timothy. Let's talk about the proverbial elephant in the room, GTA 6. This is the one, right? That will be that tidal wave, escape velocity. I think so. What does it look like? What does the world look like when GTA 6 comes into play? I mean, I feel like we got a little more time, which could be good or bad for us here in crypto, right? Depending on how that plays out. That's why I want to get your opinion on this. What does it look like in a world where GTA 6 adopts some sort of play to earn, some crypto elements, that sort of thing, which is rumored to?
I hope they do. And I got so excited the other day when I thought Pokemon Pocket was like, when I heard the Sui announcement and like they had this stuff, I was thinking the same thing, because I'm obviously on this, our game is a TCG, so we're aimed at that same audience with Marvel Snap and all that. And I'm like, I'm so bullish on that idea, because I refuse to believe that normal players don't want to own their stuff. Like, I think it's just been done incorrectly, right? It's like they don't want to earn tokens, let's say, or they don't want the speculative nature of it, or they don't want those things. But you can't tell me you don't want enhanced ownership benefits. I mean, especially when it comes to something like trading card games, literally the roots of the genre allowed you to be a player and a collector, or both. And when card games went digital, they chopped off half the experience and said, now you just play and you collect to play. And so what if we could bring back collecting to collect? And there's clear evidence. People always forget, like CSGO has basically been doing a speculative digital economy now for years. I read the other day that they're at $5 billion in trading volume since they started trading skins, $5 billion. And the more interesting stat to me is this: only 20% of the current people trading skins actively play. So what does that tell you? 60% used to play, and 20% have never played the game. So we have an economy, a digital trading economy. It's just not on blockchain, but a digital trading economy that has blossomed and grown to a place on its own where it has 5 billion in transactions, and 80% of participants don't daily play the game anymore, or don't play at all anymore. And so there's clear evidence. And this week, actually, I believe the stock market hit a record inflow of new retail users. And so we're at a time in society where there are more young guys in particular looking for alpha, looking to invest, looking to put their money to use. They're trying the stock market. They're dabbling in freaking Pokemon cards. If you look at Pokemon physical right now, it's on an absolute tear. My collection is like over doubled in the last 3 months. And it's like, so what is that? That's young guys, people coming in, looking for traditional investments, but very open to anything else new. Freaking investing in Legos. Look up Lego investments. There's channels dedicated not invest in Legos. So you can't tell me that there's not the potential for these massive, robust digital economies. The key, though, that they all have in common when they work is that they're around a good competitive game. And so that's really the difference. And so when people ask me like, well, hasn't TCGs been done in Web3? Yes, but show me a good competitive game that has a couple million players in it at least. Like there's not one yet. So, and so all that to say that, yeah, I think I'm so hoping that GTA 6 adopts some version of blockchain. I think for most people, if they do, it's going to be underwhelming for the average Web3 user. They're going to be like, man, they could have done this so much better, so much more, so much more. But that's not the point. It would be onboarding that many people into just a taste of digital ownership and the ability to move things, transfer, whatever. And then I think that like that starts the snowball, because what that would do is this, right? If they can pull it off and it doesn't tank their game, every single major studio with a major IP will be going, okay, it can be done and it won't tear you apart. There's a right way to do it. And then the next one does it, and the next one does it. And then the moment a player experiences a game with ownership and a game without it, and he goes, well, this is better than this, you never go back to this. You start going like, well, like even for me now, I rip packs every night in Pokemon Pocket, but it still feels a little bit hollow to me. Something in my soul hurts because I don't own that thing and I can't sell it. There's no rare, it's ultimately just for entertainment at the end of the day. And man, if I could just have a little bit more, I would love that. Now I'm fully red pilled, but it doesn't take much for you to feel that and experience that. And so, yeah, for me, the future is actually super bright for gaming. And I think we'll look back on this time and realize people got hyped about the idea. It was then a bunch of money went to projects who never actually were even designing for that idea. That's been the problem. Studios came into Web3 and they listened to the degens who wanted to, and I'm a degen, just to be clear. So like I'm one of them, but they listened to us and tried to build games we wanted, which is really, we wanted DeFi skinned in a game, right? We wanted speculation. We wanted to make a bunch of money. And so they built products for us, but it was so far from what the normal population wanted that they all just ended up failing. And then there's not enough money to sustain all these games in our small little group. So they ultimately failed. And so I think now we finally have studios that are saying, listen, to Web3, like, listen, we're going to give you what you want, but you got to trust us. Let us go build a game that's going to get 10 million people out here to play it. And then we will integrate the two. And I think that's what we're going to see. And when that works, I think we start the GameFi cycle all over again. And I predict a day where GameFi is a top 3 category and a narrative once again, but just done the right way. So yeah.
Do you what like? Yeah, I was gonna say that's a great analysis there. And by the way, Zed, I don't know if it's raining outside. There's some kind of like background noise in the in like the back end of your. Oh, that's.
I think I took it out.
There we go. That's tremendously better. It's all good. It's all good.
All right.
I was gonna ask on like both of you guys, what conversation is missing from the gaming world? Like what conversations are either not being had enough or being skipped over? Like we hear a lot of like me and Zach remember like a lot of those gaming conversations where like there was just something always missing, and we were like, once that's filled, then gaming takes off. But a lot of the conversations were like, why isn't gaming here yet? And then we kind of just circle around the same 2 or 3 things. But I'm curious, Tim, maybe you can go, and then we'll hear from Zed on what kind of comes to mind, I guess, from this. You're boots on the ground. You're in these conversations. You're meeting with people. You're building your own game.
Yeah.
So I'd love to hear your perspective.
Yeah, I think the conversation that's not been had, which is a little bit of what I just touched on, which is like patience from the Web3 crowd to go build something that can win in Web2. Because you either it's almost like, so Web3 ultimately wants to be able to make money in an ecosystem, which if they're the ones to back it early, they should have that right. So like I'm full agreement, right? Like, hey, build something that's going to do well. But the problem is that that takes time, number one, and it's like they're saying, hey, we want to be in something that we can make a lot of money, But what they don't realize is that if we build it in a way that makes it so easy to do that, like play to earn, you then get a game that will only ever have 20,000 people in it, or 30,000 or 50,000. And this dream of going out and getting normal people to convert to a player who wants that is like getting someone to change a religion. It's not very easy, right? And so really the conversation I believe that needs to be had for the games that are trying to go big, right? There will always be a place for that fun. It's purely made for the current Web3 audience, and not even that's a bad thing. That is awesome, and I think games like that should exist, and there's games that will do very well catering to the core Web3 audience. But if you're really trying to deliver on the promise of let's go get a big thing in Web 2, you have to let them build a game that looks on the surface like a Web 2 game. And because they'll say, we want you to go get adoption, go make this big, go make my token worth a bunch, and my NFTs worth a bunch, go get 10 million Web 2 players. But then you start making a game that will appeal to them, and they're like, well, wait, where's all the Web 3? We want more Web 3. So they're kind of, it just, that to me doesn't work. And so, we're fortunate that the genre we chose, which is TCGs, it actually fits very well, where we can have a Web 2 game that can go on board 20, 30, 40 million players actually as a pure Web 2 game. Like, we don't have wallets in our game. There's no tokens. You can't buy or spend tokens in the game. It's going to be a Web 2 game on Steam and go compete with Hearthstone, Snap, Yu-Gi-Oh, the big boys, Magic the Gathering and all that. And so that's our goal, and that's what we're aiming at. And then and we're set up to build for that. Like, we're not, we have a Web 2 launch planned in December. The Web 3 launch for like our race to mint is in like next year, right? We're a normal game studio. We're gonna go build and launch there. But then our Web 3 economy lives outside the game and basically enables something that has never been done in Web 2, which is collecting. And so I think those are the conversations. Is just, it's having the right expectation that a good game takes a very long time to build. And then, trusting the team to build the right way. And when they build for that, and I think more and more people are seeing that. I've had people invest in our kind of pre-sale early asset called Blueprints, which is a hybrid of a Magic the Gathering card with an IP ownership of Pudgy Penguin and like an off-the-grid node together. So it has future revenue share, current tokens inside of it, and it's a playable card and collectible. It's cool. Anyway, so I've had a lot of people who've told me, Tim, I stopped investing in games a year ago, but I'm going to buy a bunch of these, because they're finally seeing that someone is aiming at getting real adoption in Web 2 and then bringing that back and hooking to it a Web 3 economy where they can have what they want, but you've got this giant Web 2 engine. And so it's just allowing teams to build that way, and not, because they're either saying, give me, make my stuff worth a lot, and then at the same time they're asking for it to be super Web 3, and those two will not go together. You'll never get massive adoption with a bunch of Web 3 integrated things in your game, or at least not now. And so, yeah, that would probably be, I think, the thing that comes to mind for me.
What are your thoughts, Seth?
Yeah, I love that. I think that at some point, and I'm not sure when, but some point down the road, someone like Timothy or the Pudgy Penguin TCG or one of these games is going to come out with ownership and just really take the world by storm, because people are going to fall in love with it and really have that ownership. And then the Pokemons of the world are going to take a look and say, look, we have to fully adopt this, or not necessarily get left behind, but we're going to lose a lot of share, a lot of mind share, a lot of market share. And so at some point it's going to become too big to ignore. Right now, I think that there's a lot of these friction points, like you were mentioning, Timothy, that make it hard and difficult and everything. And back to what you were saying before about GTA 6 and everything, since I've gotten into Web3 and crypto and everything, I have said I will never play a game again that does not have some element of ownership. So, if there's play to earn, I'm in, everything like that. Now, that being said, GTA 6 comes out, even if they don't have crypto, elements and blockchain elements, I'll still be playing GTA 6, and so probably will the rest of the world to some degree.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
But that's why it's such a big deal if they do adopt crypto. And if they do adopt crypto, I think we'll see maybe, huge focus. It'll be like, we're coming for mass extraction, boys. And everyone will be playing GTA 6, and everything will take a back burner side note on that, and but it will be such a huge thing for the space as a whole.
Yes.
Even if, like you said, even if it's just small little elements.
Yep.
But just imagine a world where people are playing GTA 6, and certain people at a high level that are playing it are getting, a big paycheck for certain things they've earned, or skins, or guns, or cars, or whatever in the game, and other people are buying them for as much as a real car. The world's going to take note of that, as a whole. And so that is when I think real mass adoption really will, it'll be undeniable.
It's just going to take the right product and the right way of introducing ownership to show all these people that hate on it that there's just a right way to do it. And it's like the hate that has come from Web 2 to Web 3. I don't think right now it's been like, oh, if you have a token or an NFT in your game, we're not playing it. But it's been because they've not been served it the right way. It's almost like serving steak the wrong way because you're a terrible cook. And then it's like, and then someone does it the right way, and it's like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. I want this. And then like you said, it spreads. To me, and we're already seeing a little bit of that. The very fact that Sui now has the badges for Pokemon Home or whatever on blockchain, that little step shows a giant company putting something on blockchain. It's the dipping of the toes. It means the big boys have looked at it, and despite the failures, they've said, listen, there's something there. Those games were just bad. We can do good games, and let's see if ownership can be acceptable. And I think to me, it's inevitable. It's just taken longer than we thought. And we had a lot of, a lot of fatalities along the way, a lot of boats that didn't make it to the new land. I always used to say that, we're coming from Web 2 to the new land of America with Web 3, and we're going to see who stakes out their claim, and whoever the brave are that can survive the journey will own the new free world. And I still believe that, there's just a lot of crashed boats that never made it to land. And, but there's a few of us that I think will make it. And then there's some big boats behind us that are coming. It's just people don't realize it. So, yeah.
Oh, yes.
I'm hanging on to a door like a raft, like Jack over here. So, just imagine what that one small thing will do, that Pokemon badge, in the minds of people that were haters or non-believers. That little thing could be a changer, a game changer in someone's mind. Oh, okay. If they're willing to adopt it or accept it or say this is cool, maybe it is pretty cool, and maybe I can take a deeper look into this. And that's, going back to the GTA 6, something like that will be a seismic shift.
Yes.
And what I think of is, my brother was telling me to buy Bitcoin at $6,000, right? And I just, and I can remember family conversations, and people are like, oh, fake, internet money, and my aunt and uncle just totally dismissing him and talking crap and that sort of thing. And it was a joke back then. And my brother is a true believer and much smarter, ahead of the world, in that sense. And I wish I would have, listened a lot harder and done what I needed to get a piece of that. But I'm like, 6,000. I can't believe it's worth that much already. No way I'm paying 6,000 for one Bitcoin. Yeah. Well, imagine if I would have really took a deeper look into that and why he had such conviction. I think that we're gonna see the same thing. You have a lot of haters and non-believers around crypto gaming, especially Web 2 gamers and everything, which blows my mind. I'm like, it's almost insulting to a gamer. For some reason, it just insults me, because I'm like, it's if you really love games and the industry, you should want to see it grow and evolve and have your stake in it. And if you're gonna put that much time and energy into it, you want some skin in the game. Don't you want to have some ownership of that world?
Yep.
And wouldn't you want the opportunity to own a piece of that game, to make money from the game, just passively doing something that you want to do? I mean, passive income is a dream for anyone. And if you could find ways to do that while you're having fun, I mean, it makes all the sense in the world. And it just is kind of a no-brainer. So I don't know why we see that resistance, that pushback. It's whenever there's something new like that, you see that in everything in life, that resistance and I'm gonna talk crap about this and hate on it because I don't understand it. We saw it with Bitcoin and crypto as a whole in general. I think we're seeing that with gaming, and crypto as an adoption. I'm a musician. I see it in Web3 music. I see it in gaming. And so we see that still happening, reverberating through crypto. But eventually, people are going to come around and see the light and go, "Oh, if I would have understood why people had this conviction in it, maybe I would have understood it earlier."
Yeah, it's really just the fact that I think we've not seen the same caliber of products presented to Web 2 with the right integration of Web 3. So it's you just ask yourself the question, if Fortnite announced tomorrow that all skins could be moved onto the blockchain and you could trade and sell freely in a marketplace, is there anyone that thinks that would be like, sure, there's going to be some hate for it, but like the majority of the players would be like, that's awesome, So like just that fact alone, just the ability to move stuff back and forth, it's happening in the black market. People sell their entire account to get access to a really limited skin. CSGO is the proof that people want to own and speculate and trade digital items. And so blockchain just makes that easier and better. And so, I'm right there with you. When people go like, "Oh, it'll never work," I just refuse to believe that, because there's already evidence it would, and it is, and it will. It's the key, I think, is that we went out to Web 2 with inferior products and told them to love them. Had ownership. We're like, play this game because look, it's like your game, but it's got Web3 and you can own everything. And they're like, well, that's not like my game. That is a lot worse than my game. We're like, well, but you can never make money. And then they're like, I don't want that. So GTA 6 would change that. I think it would be a seismic shift, 100%.
You're telling me my Hulk Hogan skin is worth $1,300 if I transfer the blockchain? No way I'm doing that, because I hate crypto.
Right.
Yeah. What do you think about what do you guys think about, so like Dr. Disrespect had come into crypto a couple years ago. He had his game. There was some controversy that followed him just in general across the board. But maybe we have, maybe we haven't. But as far as like the streaming world, these massive gamers coming in, what has the disconnect been, or has it just been what you just outlined, with the games just haven't been up to par? So a little bit on that, but also, what do you guys envision for what's to come? Because gaming and streaming kind of go hand in hand, and I'd be really interested to see who's going to sort of lead that charge, I guess, and do it in a way where it doesn't feel shilly and cheap and weird, like maybe it did in the past. But what do you guys are thinking about that?
In my opinion, back to Abstract, that's kind of where their focus is, and one reason why I think they're doing so well is they have a heavy focus on streaming. And so it really bolsters their games and their gameplay and activity, and people viewing it and then seeing the rewards and the play to earn or the gambling mechanics within that world. So I think that Luca is really smart and kind of ahead of the game, and he sees where things are going and how important streaming is to gaming and crypto in general, trading, gambling, and all of that. So I think that Luca is a visionary, obviously, for our space, and I think that he sees that. And while we don't really have the quality products and things to stream just quite yet, like there is still that, and it does hold enough interest for the degen world and everything. It might not appeal to a greater world yet, a broader world, but I think as we start to see more adoption, however that comes, and like Timothy is saying, I think that your question or your point, Kate, is right on, that is why we're not seeing a huge adoption in the greater world and the greater streaming world, is people just don't care quite yet, but as we see Bitcoin reach new all-time highs again and again, and we go into further into the market, hopefully that we all expect to see, or many of us expect to see, if Bitcoin reaches 130, 150K, that sort of thing, I think we will start to see a lot more normies, start to take a little more interest in the space and start to play around, especially as Robinhood takes adoption into like gambling mechanics, and there's all of these prediction markets and things like that are really starting to get popular and everything. That's like the gateway drug. That's just one step away from, I'm spending my time here, but boy, I could go spend my time here and actually there's a greater return and I'm having more fun here. And it's not just like there's more skill here in this gameplay and more fun, so it's like I think that there's a lot of things that are catalysts that are happening already right now. As we move into more adoption, a greater adoption, that will bleed into all things, in crypto.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think the intersection of streaming and gaming and crypto will only get better. I think that, again, as people start to look at the way they utilize blockchain, both the tech and the token as a reward mechanic, in more of a how do we supercharge our Web 2 product with this? So, for instance, would be like part of your tokenomics being set up for streamers as rewards for them and their participants, like Thousands is doing right now with streaming, right, where they're rewarding people, same as Abstract. And so, I think that trend will continue to pick up. And again, the missing piece is just having products that actually can stand toe to toe with the Web 2 counterparts. And I really think that's the last piece that topples everything, because when there's no longer an excuse, when the best product is the Web 3 product, then it's like, well, now why would I not want all those other benefits? And when you overcome, it's almost like with gamers, again, they see themselves as purists and they look at the other side of the aisle going, oh, you want to pay me to play? Like, I'm too good for that almost. I'm not willing to lower my standard of entertainment. But the moment the best product is also a product that will reward you in another way, it's like, well, why wouldn't I do it? It's kind of what happened with free to play games versus like paying to play. There was people don't remember, one of my co-founders, well, two of my co-founders have been designing games for 26 years and one for like 30 or 27 and 30. And they went through the transition of, $50 games to micro, and then all the way to free to play. And then, but it took time, and free to play had a lot of hate in the early days. And then eventually it's like, well, the games are just as good, if not better. And I can either play for free and some people spend, and that's how that economy works. And those games exploded. And so I think it is a natural evolution to your point, Zet, that like, if you're willing to put a year or 2 years of your time into a game ecosystem, should you be able to get some value out of that? And I think once people realize they should, they'll start to flock to products that will let them do that. And that's both the player, the content creator, the collector, like all of the components. And so, yeah, I mean, the way we view that is we've decided that, making it play to earn is not right for our product. At least right now, I mean, there might be a day actually where play to earn is so widely accepted once the masses have reached adoption levels that they're like, yeah, pay me to play. But we've decided instead to make it collect to earn. So we've removed the token and moved it out to the outside ecosystem, which again, because we're a TCG, it fits well. And so players can also collect and earn through their collections. And then we are also setting aside tokens for streamers. So exactly that idea that we want to basically pay the people that kind of support the ecosystem from underneath, the collectors and the content creators. And then they draw in the players who can also be a collector or a content creator as well. So I think the future is really bright for these things. I still think we're just early, any industry has to go through its growing pains. But once someone does it right, you now have 1,000 people behind them going, oh, we're going to do it that way because look, it worked. And then adoption happens much quicker than people think. So, yeah.
Quick question about how you're doing your like you said, the coin is like a separate thing, right? Outside of your ecosystem and everything. Can you explain that a little more? I personally don't think that like every game needs their own token and everything. I think what makes sense in a lot of ways is something like a Superverse or something that a lot of people adopt and use.
Yeah.
you know, on a greater scale, like maybe bring into their ecosystem. I don't think every game needs their own token, but for some, it definitely makes sense. But could you explain that just a little more?
Yeah, the quick high level version for what we're building is, we're building a Web 2 TCG. So our goal, we have a very unique product. We're kind of in between Marvel Snap and Hearthstone. We're built for mobile first. So we're going to stand as our own product as the most competitive built for mobile TCG. So if you want to play cards in a competitive manner, but you want a mobile first product, we will be that product. So we're more competitive than Snap. We're on par with Hearthstone, but we're built for mobile, whereas Hearthstone and many of the old games are really built for PC. So we're kind of catering to this evolution of the competitive 30-year-old player who no longer has 3-5 hours to play at a console or a PC. And he's now wanting his game sessions to be 5 to 7 minutes, still social, still high intensity, still super competitive, but he wants it on his phone. And so that's who we're catered for. So we're really excited about our chances just as a core game. And then our meta game or our collecting thing, we put a collector meta. So think Pokemon Pocket, where you rip lots of packs. We have a really cool leveling system where you level your cards with copies from those packs. That's all off chain. And then we have a moment where you essentially grade your card. So we'll be the first kind of digital game to kind of mirror the physical collectible market where you grade your card, taking it from an unslabbed card, taking it from off-chain to on-chain, but the player doesn't even know that. So the Web 2 player doesn't know it's an NFT. He doesn't need to know. He just knows it went from an unlimited card to a limited edition card. It was given a serial number, and it's given a grade based on some unique components that he rolls on the card. So your Winnie the Pooh card and my Winnie the Pooh card end up looking different. And there's a whole granular rarity that follows a similar system to CSGO with their texture mapping on their skins, which makes some skins super rare and some skins not so rare. So there's a really fun kind of gotcha moment when you rip packs and a really fun gotcha moment when you grade your card and you kind of reveal its hidden rarity. And then just imagine a late game kind of collecting system. And so where the blockchain comes in effect is that the game does that all seamlessly inside. And the Web 2 player never needs to know that his card is now on chain. He just knows he went from an unlimited card to a limited edition one. Now he can enter certain tournaments. There's a collector leaderboard. There's certain benefits he unlocks, and he can further his collection and he can flex to the world. I've got a whole deck full of perfect 10s, that are worth thousands of dollars. Then we take the blockchain infrastructure and we build like a companion app. So imagine a companion app where you can collect slabs. So now you're only collecting graded cards, aka NFTs. But again, it's designed for the Web 2 user. And in fact, it's designed for the Pokemon collector. We believe one day we'll be at Pokemon conventions with a big booth that invites people to experience the joys of digital collecting and basically now collect around a competitive game, which again, the key there is having the competitive game with 10 million players in it that's growing like CSGO. I believe it's such a natural fit that a collector economy will form around that with majority people who don't even play the game. They just want to collect really cool digital items that they can speculate on and trade and get alpha and all those things as they come in and out of the meta. And so the whole blockchain element plus the token basically lives out there. And so out there, you're collecting slabs, you're doing collector style achievements, you've got your whole collector profile. I met with my team today. We're looking to build kind of a hybrid between the collector app and TCG Player, which is the biggest like card trading app in the world, but all for digital. And so, you can be a player / collector, or you can be a pure collector and just enjoy collecting. And that's where we've been able to capture the hearts of the Grails and the Dinglings and the Spirit DAOs and all these guys that have invested in our early blueprints because they love the idea of not even having to play, but they can just be collectors. So you can be a collector, be a player, or be both. And then the token side is really part really reward system. So we want to, instead of being play to earn, we are collect to earn. So imagine getting paid the bigger your collection and the longer you hold them. So it really rewards the people who still love NFTs. I own thousands of NFTs. I'm a bag holder all the way up and all the way down. And I paid the price for that. But our system is built to reward the people who are diehard fans. So if you're, if they're still listening and they're like loving this and they're like, yeah, I believe Play to Earn's going to be there, they'll love our system because you basically get compensated for collecting rare things, and the longer you hold, the more you get compensated. And then the genius part, the last piece to this, is that we actually make our entire Web 2 game a massive token sink through our web shop. So like most games now, I don't know if you've seen the Apple lawsuit where Apple was held in contempt of court, Fortnite sued to kind of get the web shop enabled. Thank you, my boy. You now are legally able to direct out from the game to a web shop and offer discounts. And so every major game is doing this now, where you offer a bonus to your Web 2 players to buy out on the web shop. And so what we do is we take the 30 cents that we don't have to give Apple anymore off all of our Web 2 spend, and we just simply buy our own token back. So we are the biggest buyer of our own token, and then we take a small portion of those tokens and dump that into the reward system to reward collectors. So it's this beautiful loop of Web 2 players come in. They don't even know it, but they're buying the token by the millions per month if the game is successful, like we believe. And then part of that is going to reward collectors who actually drive attention. Because if, like you said right in the early part of the call, what if you said to your friend, hey, dude, there's a card game that's blowing up right now, and I heard you can pull cards that collectors will buy for thousands of dollars. He's like, what is that? And you're like, dude, just download this app. Like, to me, that's the makings of something super viral, where you can just rip packs in a game. You don't have to be a player, and you might rip a card, a 1 of 1 that a collector's willing to pay 10 grand for, because he's going to earn more than 10 grand by holding that over the next year. And so it's that virtuous cycle. And so that's how we're building. Again, we're one of the few teams that's doing it that way. But we see Web 3 as the way to supercharge Web 2. But the key is first having success in Web 2, which is what we're aimed at now. So yeah, that's the high level kind of view. Happy to take you through it more direct in person at some point, but yeah.
Another mic drop hand clap, because I love that approach. I think like you've got it really figured out, and I think that's a beautiful system and setup that you've got there. And I think this is the way, as a well-known Web3 degen term, this is the way. Yeah, I think that you've got it dialed in. So I'm really excited for what you guys have going. And now, is it available, a beta, or what is available to the masses right now? Yeah, happy to shamelessly plug my own project. I know you invited me on just to be a fly on the wall to give my opinion. Sorry, but yes, we've been building quietly for a year and a half on this product. In fact, in about an hour, we're doing the first private play test with one of our guild partners. But we showed off the game at GDC. So if you go back to Project O on Twitter, you can, or coingames.io is the website, or projecto.gg is our website. You can link to our Twitter there, or just find me and link through there. And you can kind of see, but we showed it off at GDC last year at the Wolves Den. It did very, very well. We've had about 500 players play privately since then, and that has led to like unbiased, unincentivized play. We're not giving anybody something to play. They love the game, and we're getting 8.5s to 9.5s from people who play TCGs every day professionally. We've got a lot of ex-pro Hearthstone players, a lot of current Marvel Snap and parallel players. We have a pro council of about 30 members who play with our team every 2 weeks and give us direct feedback, and it's been overwhelmingly positive. So we're doing really well there. So there is opportunities to play test. In fact, I think right now we're running something in our Discord where you can earn a play test spot for the new build, which we'll release in about a week. And then we are aiming towards soft launch in Web 2. So a little unconventional, because usually it's always reversed. They do the Web 3 stuff first, they get a bunch of Web 3 money, and then you hope they get to Web 2. We're going to Web 2 by December. So in December, we'll be soft launching the game in the normal way you launch a real game, into like the Philippines, and then it'll scale. And then we will lead up to the opening of the doors to all of Web 3 in about April of next year. So right after GDC is the goal, with the first major event to allow Web 3 in to what we call Race to Mint. So one of the things that we're doing that I think is pretty freaking exciting for Web 3, for the DGen and me, is we're going to have an event before we really let Web 2 in, where we're going to turn on the ability to mint the first cards from inside the game.
and it's going to be a race. So whoever races to mint Robinhood and the first one to get it on chain from inside the game will own serial number 001 Alpha Edition. So instead of selling first edition cards, we're letting people compete over them, and it's the first ones to mint them. So that'll be a pretty hyped event. We expect that to be big because those cards will immediately be the ones that earn the most in the collector and ecosystem. So if you believe in what we're doing and you want to be a first-time guy, you're going to want to be in on that event. So that'll be in April. Now of next year. So there are things to get involved in now, but they're kind of small rewards here and there leading up to it. And so yeah, and then privately, we've had our blueprints, which are the asset that we have, which is kind of a combination of Magic the Gathering card with Pudgy Penguin ownership and an off-the-grid node. Those that we've been just meeting with people privately, they have to technically be non-US or accredited US to qualify to be in the pre-sale of that. And so we've had roughly $2 million in sales privately, just amongst about 100 so collectors. So it's gone really well. So we're just quietly finding the right partners for that. The remaining 50% of supply will be earnable and winnable through the game. So we're going to release that starting with the race to mint as well. That'll be one of the things. And those are blueprints. Those are incredible. They're kind of like owning 1% ownership of Charizard, and then you get paid when Charizard cards make money in the game. So they're pretty freaking awesome. Nice. And so, so there'll be a lot more coming, but we've just been building quietly in stealth for really 3 years. We had a game pivot a year and a half in, and then we've been building on this product for a year and a half. So yeah, happy for anyone to come join the Discord and say what's up. And if someone is, interested in blueprints and you qualify, you can reach out and we can give the details. So yeah.
Incredible. You've definitely been on my radar. I am becoming a believer though, from what I'm hearing. And I'm also a big NFT nerd, big NFT, I guess degen obsessed NFT collector. Going back to collecting and everything, I would like to collect things, but I'm not a good physical collector. I have kids and everything just gets destroyed. I'm why did I start this collection of these things that are now ruined anyway? And once I got into NFTs, I just for some reason it just clicked. My collector side of me just really came out, and now I obsess over collections. Yeah. And one thing I wanted to say is you guys have definitely been on my radar. Like I said, doing all the gaming shows and everything. But I'm really excited to kind of learn more about it. I know we're kind of getting far on time, but I just wanted to say I really love the artwork. I love the style and the teasers I've seen from you guys. Thank you. And going back to NFTs, I have it saved in my watch list now. And so that means it's only a matter of time till I end up aping in, if you will. But I got Coin Games Dev Squad saved on my watch list. What's the benefits of having that if you didn't already kind of cover that?
Yeah, so Coin Games Dev Squad is an interesting one because it's from our original launch 3 years ago when we first started, and it's always been our community item. So it was part of the original design of the first game. It was going to kind of be an honorary item in an auto battler. We've since then pivoted the brand. You might see with the new artwork that we are, we're like if you scroll down there, you can kind of see the little clips of the video there. But we are a competitive TCG, and the game itself now is a card game. So the IP has changed. We're using the famous Myths and Legends. Those are blueprints there. So you've got Boots and Death and Bandersnatch and Winnie the Pooh and Red Riding Hood. So the evolution of what we've done has changed a lot since then. And so we're still heavily aiming to reward our KGDS, but I would argue that some of the rewards are already kind of I can't give too many details, but ultimately we have a campaign that's been going called Are You Worthy, where if you own any of the major collections in NFTs, there is a reward coming from you. All you have to do is link your wallet, see your collector score. We rate you as a collector based on how many NFTs you hold and how long you've held that. That's on our current website that's still open now. And one of the heaviest scoring NFTs is our own NFT. So part of the value in owning a KGDS was just being a holder the last 3 years. The future value in owning a KGDS, there is still value in it. We have one more major surprise coming, and then we will have one more like evergreen surprise. But our goal is to kind of reward everyone who's been a holder, where they're all happy, thumbs up, like, man, that was awesome that I bought that. But it is to sunset that asset and give it a forever value in the collector ecosystem. But it's not the asset I would encourage anyone to go buy now. And that's why it's at the price it's at, because we don't promote it at all. And we don't really encourage any new people to go buy it. The only benefit currently to get would be like if you want guaranteed access to the play tests. The asset people are going to want is the blueprints. That'll be our marquee asset, which again, right now, unfortunately, we can only offer to non-US folks and accredited. And we've been just doing it one-on-one with real passionate collectors. So we've not even talked about them publicly. And you can win those right now in some of our play tests and things. And then at the race to mint in early next year, that's really when Web3 is going to be able to get their hands in a meaningful way into the ecosystem. And so, yeah, so right now it's kind of privately for non-US and accredited investors while we have a little bit of supply left of the pre-sale blueprints. And then the main moment people are going to build up to is that race to mint event in April. That'll be really the first time to get your hands on some stuff in the ecosystem. So, yeah. But happy, Zet, to just meet with you one-on-one later, and happy to take you through the ecosystem and show you the rest of the design.
Yeah, please do. I'm on the back end over here signing into the website, adding my wallet and my email, so I don't forget to do it later.
Yeah, for anyone who is a collector, if you own Pudgy Penguins, if you own any of the big NFTs in the thing and you're still a holder, you have rewards on our site. We wanted to reward people who collected and held the last few years. So we have about 150 collections listed in the Are You Worthy campaign that you get a reward for, which we'll be announcing the rest of those soon. So there's already something to participate in if you've been a collector of our NFT or other big NFTs. So yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool stuff. I was gonna say, I don't really mind going through it because you guys are doing your Web 2 launch in like the end of the year, and then the Web 3 stuff's not even coming until next April. So for people who are just looking for something interesting to sink their teeth in the gaming world, that's why I wanted to bring these two guys on, because it was just kind of like an interesting conversation around the gaming industry. And Timothy, you have just a different style of product to offer the industry, I guess, that I thought was really cool. And that's why I was like, we should hash this out on the stream and talk about it. And bring in a different type of conversation, because this type of game isn't something this type of game and this type of conversation around gaming was rather a different angle than I had seen prior. This is fun for me. I think this is really interesting. Zed, I was going to say, Zed, do you also have anything that you've got coming up, or you want to let people aware of, know about that you've got coming up, or anything along those sorts?
Yeah, I appreciate it. I got a collector score of 3699. That seems pretty good. And a social score of 2937. So I got some rewards in here already, it looks like.
Nice. Yeah, that's awesome.
So yeah, I'll have to figure that out, but that's cool. I'm not with any like projects or games specifically or anything like that. Just a huge believer and passionate about the space and gaming, Web3 gaming in general. If I can give a little bit of a shill, I would like to shout out My Pet Hooligan as far as a gaming ecosystem. They are real builders and here for the long term. I mean, they just put out a post yesterday about all of the, the recent things we've been seeing in Web3 gaming and how they're a different animal built differently. So it is a little bit of a shill as I am on the game as far as a music feature. I definitely have a little bias there, but yeah, if you're ever looking for some edgy, hip hop type music, I can definitely help you out there. But I'm on the game as a featured artist and been a holder since mint, and I'm a believer in that team. They're currently developing a movie right now. I believe it's with Netflix. So they have a movie coming out with their IP and everything. So it's a lot more than just the game. They have some proprietary stuff around AI, like chatbots and everything. And they have partnerships with NVIDIA and Palantir. So some really big things going on. Yeah. My Pet Hooligan is a sleeping giant, like a beast that is way under the radar. I think that people are sleeping on it and don't realize what a massive beast that it is. It's undervalued and slept on, in my opinion. Again, I'm a little biased. So that's why I want to give them a special shout out and a little bit of a shill. Personally, I'm part of a project called OGT or OG Triple. It's a Web3 media organization, really grassroots. We do articles, content, and everything. And so we just did we have an NFT mint going on right now. That's that one that my new PFP that you mentioned. That's from OG Triple, the OGenies. And so really great artwork, really awesome artwork, and really cool ecosystem. So it's really grassroots with some incredible people that are here to build long-term in the space around providing content and articles and full-on Web3 media organization. And just to highlight kind of what that looks like, we have partnerships with some of the best like NFT projects and companies out there, including Bearish, Quirkies, The Plague. I mean, a ton, like over 30 really prominent, really great NFT projects. And so we're kind of their media partner, Web3 media partner. So we're going to be doing a lot of activations around those partnerships and everything. So that's just like kind of a little shill for me of what I've been building, the team I'm working with and everything right now. But yeah, I just always enthusiastic and fired up to be here, a part of this space, on the forefront, at the leading edge with people like Timothy, where we're really going to see some incredible innovation. And like they always say, we're early, sometimes a little too early, but that's okay.
Yeah.
We're still early. We're going to stay early until we're no longer early. But yeah, you can catch me on Wolf Crypto Spaces every week, FOMO Friday with Lady Trader Raw. And then I also do an NFT space with OGT every week, Wednesdays. Yeah.
But by the way, is the My Pet Hooligan is the only way to get involved? Their NFT, is that like the main way people get involved in their stuff is called the NFT, or are there different things that people do?
No, I mean the game is available on Epic Games right now.
Oh, okay.
It's in like a beta. You can download it. Anyone can play it. And the only difference is if you don't own a My Pet Hooligan NFT, your character will be running around in underwear. Like the characters that you own have like their whole ensembles or whatever. But if you're just playing, you get just a character in their underwear and socks. But you can earn things as you play, like clothes and everything like that over time. But the certain traits like that the OG NFTs have, I don't know exactly how they're going to play this, but you can't get them just by playing. Like you have to own the trait, but they've talked about potentially doing a marketplace where you could buy the gold grill or whatever, the balaclava, and then the people that own those traits get a percentage, and that's how they get royalties, by owning the NFT. So there's so many ways you can skin the cat, for lack of a better phrase, but so many ways you can innovate and use this technology to reward users of your ecosystem, in my opinion.
Definitely. Dude, that's awesome. And I appreciate both you guys coming on and opening up the world game a little bit with me. Yeah, man, absolutely.
Yeah.
And if anyone's watching and enjoy the conversation, I invite you to retweet the stream because it does help us out a ton. And if you're on YouTube, definitely subscribe. And also, if you want to get more involved or something that Timothy or Zed said that's interesting to you, right above our faces on X, you can click their accounts and give them a follow. And if you're on YouTube, into the description, you can click their X and go to their page. You should be able to find everything they have there. I think if you just go to Timothy's page, you can click on the Coin Games, then you can find the game there as well. And then Zed, anything he's got is probably in his bio as well. So Timothy, Zed, I appreciate you both coming on. And
thank you.
See you guys all in the next space or stream.
It's been an absolute blast and a privilege. Thanks. Been an honor. Thank you guys. Timothy, really great talking with you.